You are wandering the streets of the city, curious about what else it has to offer, peering through windows as you pass by, hoping that you might discover your new favorite place to frequent. Nothing seems to be catching your eye, that is, until you end up catching someone else's. A pair of glowing green eyes pierce through the darkness of the alleyway, staring you down. You make eye contact for a brief moment before turning away from you and disappearing into the dark. You stand in confusion for a few moments, wondering if it wasn't just a trick of the eye, but it definitely seemed real. Despite your better judgment, you decide to investigate cautiously. You begin to walk into the alleyway. Your eyes adjust to the lack of light as you get further and further. You begin to notice something odd. There seem to be a number of strange black markings on the walls of the buildings surrounding you, but you can't quite make out what they are. As you approach the wall to take a closer look, you are knocked to the ground by a petite woman who jumps onto your chest with full force. You are stunned as she pins you down with her body sitting on your torso and stares you dead in the eye. Her eyes are an unusual green, almost seeming to glow in the darkness. Her mouth is curled up into a toothy grin, showing off a set of sharp fangs. Her hair is short and purple, with 2 cat ears poking out the top. She's wearing a small red top that covers her flat chest and a pair of short shorts. You can see curling from behind her shoulders a long tail, the same color as her hair. You see saliva drip from the side of her mouth. You guess that she is on the edge of starving. But you aren't going to just sit by and let yourself become today's meal. You build your energy, and with a mighty shove, you push Cici off of your chest, throwing her to the side and causing her to yelp. She is very light. You feel like you might have overdid it with how much effort you put into it. You scramble to your feet, preparing to defend yourself, but it seems like the catgirl has already expended all her energy on her initial assault. She gets into a squatting position and looks over her shoulder at you, dejected.
Hey, that no fair.
She whines.
Why red girl throws Cici so hard?
You are surprised that she's so upset. Did she really expect you to just lay down and let her eat you?
Cici try her best, but Cici no good.
She sulks. Cici hangs her head low, and you begin to pity the poor thing. It must be tough trying to survive in the city, especially when you don't even look human. You walk over to the crouching catgirl and kneel down beside her, giving her a few soft pats on the head.
Look, I feel bad about pushing you, and you are clearly hungry. Maybe I can grab you something to eat.
Her ears perk up and she meets your gaze.
Red girl find prey.
She asks you excitedly.
Something like that.
You respond. She grins from ear to ear, her sharp canine teeth exposed.
Then Cici wait here, too tired to move.
She says, lying on her back, hands rubbing her belly. You shake your head and smile.
Stay put then, I'll be back soon.
You leave the back alley and begin backtracking the way you came. You think you remember seeing a butcher somewhere not that far from here during your searches, and it only takes you a small amount of time to locate it. You approach the storefront and peek through the window. There is a large selection of meat hanging from hooks along the walls. The sign says open, so you enter. You are greeted by the sound of the bells on the door jingling, as well as, unfortunately, the sounds of a rather surly lady yelling at a gruff-looking man behind the counter. The lady's voice is loud and harsh, but the man doesn't seem bothered. He simply stands there with his arms crossed, seemingly ignoring her.
Look, I'm telling ya, the price of this beef is ridiculous. This is highway robbery.
The woman's voice is so grating, you begin to feel bad for the man.
The woman's voice is so grating, you begin to feel bad for the man.
The man responds calmly. The woman goes red in the face and only begins to scream louder.
I ought to report you for malpractice. I'm sure this place isn't up to regulation. Anyways, bet you don't have the permits needed for the type of meat you're selling here.
Now look, ma'am, if you're going to come in here and start accusing me of not doing my job properly, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I'm very sorry, but that's just how it is.
The man says, his tone stern. You stand and watch the spectacle for a moment, unsure of what to do. The blowhard of a woman notices you and says,
What are you staring at, bitch?
She screeches at you. It looks like you have a decision to make here. Ignore the woman and buy some meat. End up deciding to wait out the torrent of bullshit that comes out of the angry woman's mouth as she continues to berate both you and the butcher. But eventually, she runs out of expletives, and her vitriol appears to run dry in the face of the two of you refusing to play along with her games, causing her to leave of her own accord. With that out of the way, you place an order with the butcher for a cut of his finest beef.
Tell ya what, miss, for being such a good sport about what just happened, I'll cut you a deal this time.
He says as he wraps up a slab of beef far larger than what you would have expected.
And if you see that one again, make sure to let her know. Would love to see a blood vessel pop.
Thank you very much.
Taking your cut of meat off of the butcher's hands and paying him for his service.
I'll make sure to swing by again if I am in the area.
With that, you take your leave to bring Cici her meal.
New prey look good, Cici like red girl.
When you return to the alleyway, you found the catgirl just where you left her. She had a look of disappointment on her face when you returned by yourself, but when you unwrapped the cut and set it on the ground, she quickly scrambled to her feet, hunching herself over her meal.
Bring Cici more prey ya, It hard for Cici since Cici not want to be seen.
You feel bad for the poor girl and don't think it would be too much of a harm to swing by with something every once in a while. She would probably be content with meat from the butcher, but maybe she would like some other kind of meat dishes as well.
I can bring you more food. Please don't try and lure anyone else back here like you did with me though, okay? People might notice if others begin to disappear.
Okay.
With that, she turned to her meal and begins to dig in.
Nice to see you again, Mom. Thanks again for the other day. You'll find my prices better than any of those big box stores and with better selection. Can't beat that, eh?
Call me Aubrey, I'll try and swing by every now and then.
Pleasure, Aubrey. I'm Zachary, though I prefer Zach.
The meal that you provided for Cici seems to have done her some good. She is no longer as rail thin as when you first encountered her.
Cici need more prey. Tummy yells at Cici.
Give her food. You drop the rack of raw ribs at her feet, and Cici pounces on it immediately.
Cooked prey good, raw prey better.
She says as she begins tearing the ribs apart and stripping all the meat from the bone. She digs her fingers into the bones and licks the marrow off of them. The remains clatter to the ground as she finishes.
Cici want more.
Round 2.
Her tummy get tight.
With a loud thump, the pig lands on the ground. Cici's tongue hangs out of her mouth and she begins salivating before digging in.
MMMPH red girl makes Cici happy.
She says, tears welling in her eyes. You make your way to Cici's alleyway today and find that she has started to develop a bit of a belly alongside her thick thighs. She carries it well.
Red girl back again. Look, Cici starting to get fluffy. What red girl give today?
Rack of ribs.
Cici want more.
Round 2.
Grown want more prey.
Whole hug.
Red girl makes Cici happy. Red girl look.
Cici squats in front of you and then arches her back, presenting her belly to you.
Belly shows that Cici is strong hunter. Many prey eaten.
You don't bother to bring up that these results are all due to your own efforts. She seems very proud of herself, and you don't really want to rain on her parade. Cici continues to present for you. Her eyes are wide and looking directly into yours.
Red girl not proud of Cici.
You stand in confusion before realizing exactly what it is she wants from you. You kneel down and give her belly a rub.
You did a good job, Cici.
The catgirl purrs softly as you do so.
Cici ready to eat.
What else is new?
Herb prey fighting in Cici, but they trapped good. Red girl Cici feel great. Look at tummy, others now know not to mess with Cici.
She says, squishing her belly. Cici has certainly plumped up in the short amount of time that you have known her. Her thighs rub together when she walks, and her belly now hangs over her shorts, jiggling as she moves. Though, thanks to being part cat, she still manages to move about with grace beyond what you would expect of someone with her stature. She lifts and drops the flab of her belly and lets it bounce a little each time, massaging it in circles and letting out a pleased hum. She notices your gaze and grins, a Cheshire cat grin.
Thanks to Red girl, Cici can now do long sleep.
What sleep? Has that been the goal this whole time? For you to be able to hibernate? It's not even winter.
Cici special green lady says, must sleep when Cici is big cat. Now, Cici can do long sleep. Red girl come back when Cici wake up, give more prey then.
Hold on, wait, you say, but your words land on deaf ears as Cici slinks away. You decide to check in on Cici, curious if you will be able to find her during her hibernation. You didn't really expect to find her just laying in the open, though you shouldn't be too surprised. Try to wake her. You place a hand on her shoulder and try to wake her up with a gentle shove. She continues to softly breathe in and out, completely oblivious to your attempt to wake her up. It doesn't seem like she is going to wake up under normal conditions. It might be time to shop around for a solution. You boot up Schmoogle and type into the search bar how to deal with a lazy cat, and sift through multiple forum posts from middle-aged stay-at-home mothers. You see various suggestions about diets and exercise to help increase energy, which isn't what you are looking for. But then you see a post about catnip that catches your attention. Cat Sootfoot was spending all day sleeping and lazing about. My wife and I started to worry that his health would be affected, so we just gave him a little bit of catnip, and next thing we knew he was doing zoomies all over the place. So now that is my go-to solution.
Catnip, huh?
You say to yourself before jumping over to Amazon.
Might be worth a shot. Place order 25.
You open the box and find the catnip that you ordered inside, though it seems to be more than you had anticipated. You shrug, Cici should be happy with this either way. You find Cici still sleeping in the same spot that you found her before. Give her the catnip. You kneel next to Cici, open up the bag of catnip, and take a pinch of it between your fingers. You then wave the plant in front of her nose and you see her sniffing. Her ears twitch and then her eyes shoot open. Cici then reaches out and grabs the catnip out of your hand, places it in her mouth and swallows.
Wow, good-smelling plant, give Cici funny tingle.
Her eyes dart around, and she notices the bag that you are holding and lunges at you. You yelp, dropping the bag in a panic. Cici swipes it off the ground and with crazed eyes tips the contents into her mouth. The catnip takes immediate hold over Cici. Whatever effect it is having on her must be frying her brain, as she is unable to communicate properly. She makes a shrill noise and begins meowing wildly. You carefully approach her.
Hey, Cici, are you doing okay?
You say as you place a hand on her shoulder. She recoils at your touch and turns tail, sprinting away from you and down the alleyway with frantic speed. You try to give chase, but she is much faster than you. You watch as she slips around the corner and runs down the street. You don't think that there is any way that you are going to be able to chase her down in the state that she is in. All you can hope is that she comes back here at some point. The catnip may not have been the best idea that you ever had, but at least it got results. You go to visit Cici, but she doesn't seem to have returned yet.
I hope she's okay. Come on, Grease, do your worst.
You go to the alley and are relieved to see the familiar face of the Cici, though there is noticeably more of her now.
Red girl, Cici must thank you. Funny plant gives Cici much energy. Cici find lots of prey. Since long sleep broken, Cici tummy very loud but Cici big cat now, able to do hunt on own now.
You gather from what she is saying that she has been stalking the city on her own. And to good results, she is looking rounder than ever, her belly rests on her lap, her legs are meaty, and she strains her shorts.
Does that mean that you don't need my help anymore?
Cici jumps down from her perch and runs up to you.
No, Cici doesn't want Red girl to go away. Red girl first person to be nice to Cici. Cici will eat own prey and Red girl prey.
She says to you while in a panic, waving her hands in front of her. You can see tears beginning to form in her eyes. You grab one of her hands and hold it gently.
Don't worry, I wasn't going to abandon you, I just wasn't sure if you needed me still. I would be happy to keep on doing what we've been doing.
You give her a little pat on the head.
Yay, Cici has question, Red girl.
Her ears drop down, and she breaks eye contact with you.
Cici is Cici, what is Red girl?
You have to take a few seconds to try and figure out what she is trying to say.
Oh, do you mean my name? I'm Aubrey, you can call me that if you want.
You see Cici perk up as you tell her your name.
Aubrey, Cici will wait for Aubrey's prey.
With that, you take your leave, curious how this will develop, seeing as how Cici will now be hunting on top of the food that you are bringing her. You find Cici waiting in the usual meeting place, her backside showing just how much weight she has put on since you first met.
Cici only eats small prey today, wait for Aubrey's prey. Aubrey so nice, purr.
Time for another visit to the bottom-heavy catgirl. Cici doing much hunting, tummy always yelling. Cici need Aubrey's prey too.
Hello, mommy.
Aubrey come to give prey to Cici too. Cici can handle.
She says, straining to lift herself up enough to meet your eye.
Are you okay? I know I've been feeding you, but you're huge.
You kneel down next to her and place a hand on her belly, which sinks into the folds of her fat and ripples at your touch. She is incredibly soft, any muscle is completely covered by her corpulence.
Cici top cat. Others worry they become prey, so they give to Cici.
You watch as an alley cat jumps down from out of sight with a half-eaten sandwich in its mouth, scurries over to Cici, and drops it at her side. It lets out a little meow, which Cici responds to with a meow of her own. She picks it up and begins taking bites of it.
Wait, are you talking to them?
Yes, Cici tell little cat to bring prey from other alley. Cici find many alley when Cici eat funny plant Aubrey give. Tummy still yell at Cici, but not all time anymore.
Crumbs of sandwich fly from her mouth as she speaks.
So you can't move on your own anymore.
Why Cici move when prey brought to Cici? Silly Aubrey.
She takes the last bite of the sandwich and licks the remnants off of her fingers, before letting out a guttural belch.
Aubrey bring prey for Cici.
She says, already looking for her next meal.
Now this is extremely interesting. I would like you to explain to me everything that has transpired since you first became acquainted with Cici.
Explain to Tiffany the circumstances of your meeting. How you took pity on her and provided her with a meal, how she quickly became attached to you, how you would meet up with her regularly to provide her with food, the incident involving the catnip, and how Cici went ballistic. You explain how she started to develop stronger cravings and would eat more and more as she grew in size, and finally, how she is now unable to move and is using other cats to provide food for her.
I see much has gone wrong, it would appear. Aubrey, allow me to clear some things up for you.
She takes a seat and rests her chin in her hand.
Cici is a failed experiment of the lab. an attempt to splice animal and human DNA together, one of my more outlandish ideas, but imagine just how many people would be interested if I could make it work. The internet is full of them.
She coughs and resets herself.
She was a cat that we brought in from a shelter. The plan was to have her act as the trial run, start with the animal, and add the human before we attempted to do the inverse. Initial appearances would lead you to believe that it was an incredible success, but issues began to arise shortly after. Her metabolism was completely out of line. She would lose weight quickly when left unfed, while having a penchant for putting on weight when fed. Though the amount needed to sustain her grew exponentially as her weight rose, it was at that moment that I realized that she needed some kind of inhibitor, which is where the hibernation came into play. Have you ever had to force medicine onto a cat before? Getting Cici to take a shot to instill the hibernation trait was like that, but on another level.
Tiffany removes her glasses, fogs them with her breath, wipes them clean on her lab coat, and then puts them back on.
It would appear that by waking her mid-hibernation, it undid the effects of the drug.
Okay, so what does that mean for Cici now? What should we do?
You ask, still trying to process everything that Tiffany just unfolded to you.
Allow me to explain what has happened and what will happen to Cici if we don't intervene. Her metabolism is now completely out of control, and it will only get worse. She will seek out food endlessly to try and satiate her hunger, only to get larger in return, which will feed back into her hunger, stuck in an endless loop, until she eventually runs out of things to eat. And with her carnivorous instincts, I assume you can imagine what she might turn to if desperate enough.
You grow quiet at the implications of that statement. Tiffany then continues.
She escaped from the lab a little over a year ago. Thankfully, by happenstance, you came across her and are now able to help me get her back here. Our attempts to retrieve her have been fruitless, but from your account, it sounds like she is not in a position to run now, so it is just a matter of collecting her.
So what are you going to do afterwards, once you bring her here?
She will have to be confined to an area where she won't be able to harm herself or others, as we work on bringing her weight back down to a more manageable level. Then we will have to work on finding a more permanent solution to the problems that she presents.
You can't help but notice that she doesn't look you in the eye as she says this, walking back to her workstation as she does.
Just let me know where you want to go.
You think you should be the first one to approach Cici, so you tell Tiffany to follow you into the alley in a few minutes to give you time to talk to Cici first.
Aubrey come to give Cici prey. Cici need it, tummy need more.
Seems that in the short amount of time since you last saw her, Cici has been busy, somehow managing to get even larger. Her stomach now dominates the rest of her frame with rolls of fat layered on top of each other. It now stands a few feet off the ground from her laying position. She playfully drums her fingers along the top of her titanic gut, eager to receive whatever it is she assumes you are bringing her.
Sorry, Cici, not today. Actually, we should talk about something. I've been worried about your eating lately. You've gotten so big that you can't even move anymore.
You gesture at all of her, trying to get across the sheer size of her.
That good, big Cici, strong Cici,
she says, grabbing her belly by the sides and shifting it back and forth, causing it to jiggle to and fro.
Now Cici get all prey, make tummy very happy.
You take a crouching position so that you are face to face with Cici.
That's the thing, Cici. I talked to someone that I know about what has been happening to you. They knew about you and told me that if we aren't careful, this could become a really big problem. So she is here today to help.
Cici's eyes widen and her ears drop to the side.
Aubrey friend no Cici, very few know Cici.
You then hear the sounds of footsteps begin to echo throughout the alleyway.
Hello, subject C34C, or rather Cici. I am relieved to have finally found you. When Aubrey told me about the state that you were in, I couldn't help but feel a little excitement mixed with the concern. This will be a wonderful learning opportunity as we work to rear in your eating habits to a more manageable level.
Tiffany approached both you and Cici with a large syringe in her hand.
What's that, Tiff?
You ask, a feeling of concern begins to creep up on you.
This is an anesthetic with her increased girth and naturally enhanced feline athleticism. I figured that this would expedite the whole process rather than trying to wrangle in Cici with just our own strength. No Aubrey, green lady bad. Cici get away from green lady. Cici tummy yell lots with green lady and Cici not get prey. Cici small cat.
You look at the cat girl and can see the panic on her face.
Wait, Tiff, did you not feed Cici when she was at the lab?
You ask, turning to the scientist, who is now standing next to you. Cici tries to kick herself back, her feet push along the ground, but she is unable to move underneath all of the weight holding her down.
Of course we fed her. She would be placed on periods of fasting in order to bring her weight back down as we were testing the limits of her metabolism. She would act as if she were being starved, but she was carefully monitored in order to ensure that she was never in danger of that. Now can you please hold her in place so that I can administer this?
She says, giving the plunger of the anesthetic a light press, a squirt of liquid spraying to the ground.
Aubrey please, Cici don't want to go with green lady.
You only have a few seconds to make a choice. What do you do? You hold one of Cici's arms to prevent it from moving, using all the strength you have to try and keep her still. Tiffany quickly administers the anesthetic and you release your grasp.
Aubrey, why?
You can see the betrayal in the catgirl's eyes as the drug takes effect on her, and she drifts out of consciousness. You feel sorry for doing this to Cici, but you decide that this is probably for the best. She was beginning to get out of control, and you think that Tiffany will be able to help Cici get her hunger under in check.
Come and help me, Aubrey. I have a gurney that we can use to help transport her. I doubt that even with the two of us, we would be able to lift her to my vehicle without it.
You stand and follow after Tiffany as she leads the way, looking back over your shoulder one last time at Cici, her gut rising and falling to the rhythm of her breathing. You ask Tiffany if you can see Cici, and she obliges, taking you to a room with a reinforced glass holding case. Inside, you find Cici, dressed in a yellow jumpsuit. She has a feeding tube attached to her mouth, and you can see some kind of liquid funneling through it into her mouth. Her large belly rests between her legs.
What are you feeding her?
You ask Tiffany.
It is a nutritional slurry designed to give her all her necessary daily vitamins, minerals, and caloric intake, which at the moment is quite a bit. However, I am able to adjust the amount that she receives, so it is a matter of slowly decreasing her intake over time to help her body slim down. The process is going to be slow-going, as she was quite far gone to begin, but given enough time, she should return to her normal self.
I'm glad to hear, though I don't think Cici necessarily agrees.
You say as you watch the catgirl claw at her glass case, leering at you.
Yes, I would say so. She did not have very kind things to say about you after waking up, but if it is any consolation, I believe that you did the right thing.
While Tiffany is busy messing with the feeding machine, a bottle of clear liquid catches your eye on one of the shelves. You walk over and quietly open the cabinet to avoid Tiffany noticing and pick it up. Flavor enhancer, it reads. You decide that she probably won't be upset if a single bottle goes missing, and pocket it. Cici notices you enter her room, and she glares at you from inside her containment cell.
Hey Cici, I promise. I'll get you a nice juicy steak once all is said and done.
Aubrey, I am reaching out to you to inform you that as of today, Cici has officially been taken off her controlled diet regimen. I felt like this was of personal interest to you and that you would like to know. After over a year of carefully monitored intake, we've succeeded in bringing her weight down to a level that no longer poses an immediate risk to, well, everyone around her now. You might be wondering what happens next. Let's just say, I have some rather ambitious ideas for Cici's future. With her body stabilized, it opens up a whole range of fascinating possibilities for further exploration. Of course, I'll spare you the details for no need to burden you with all the scientific nuances. Just know that the research is progressing in ways that are both enlightening and, dare I say, revolutionary. However, if you feel any sense of attachment or concern for her well-being though, I assume you've moved past that by now. It may be best to limit any future visits. Her situation is likely to change rather drastically, and once the next phase begins, Cici's appetite will be the least of our concerns. I'll be sure to keep you in the loop as things develop, but trust me when I say thighs is where the fun really starts. Best regards, Tiffany, lead scientist, future Butte.
What Cici, how, why, what?
You stammer, trying to find the words, being shocked by Cici being here.
Oh, you know them, Aubrey?
Stephanie asks you, curiously looking at the obese catgirl, splayed out on a mattress that is on the ground.
Oh,
You can't let Stephanie know about what's happened with Cici.
this is Cici. It's a character from a hentai that I like.
Stephanie immediately blushes.
Oh, I didn't realize that you were into catgirls, Aubrey. I will have to keep that in mind for some future RP stuff.
Do you think I could talk to her alone? This is kind of a wild thing for me.
Ah, gotcha. As long as you promise not to run off with her or anything. You let me live out my wildest fantasies, so I would be a bit of a hypocrite to deny you yours. Have fun.
Stephanie say, walking off to go look at the wares at one of the booths. With that immediate problem out of the way, you walk over to Cici and crouch down next to her and whisper.
How the hell did you get here? Why are you here? What are you doing here?
Cici gives you a smirk.
Cici saw humans not look like humans many sleeps ago. When Cici see what happens, Cici get seen by human, but humans not be scared of Cici. Dumb humans think Cici in disguise.
You look around, and while Cici does draw some attention because of her size, no one seems to be freaked out by her. Honestly, compared to how some people are dressed, Cici is pretty tame in comparison.
So you come here because people don't say anything.
No, Cici come because humans treat Cici good. Human want picture of Cici, but Cici only give if Cici get prey first.
At that moment, a man comes up with a loaded hot dog and offers it to Cici. Can I get that picture with you now? Cici unhinges her jaw and slides the hot dog down her throat with one meaty gulp. The man takes a knee next to Cici and takes a photo with her. Cici licks the man on the cheek and he grows red in the face. Probably presuming that she is being flirtatious, you know that she is probably just trying to get a taste. Thank you, the man says, flustered, and then leaves the two of you alone.
Human prey not Cici's normal prey, but it's still good, and Cici get many prey just by sitting.
But how did you get here? I thought you couldn't move at all.
Little ones help Cici,
she says, pointing to the window, where you see a small army of cats sleeping in a pile in the midday sun on a roof. Other people in the crowd are pointing at the kitty puddle and taking pictures.
Cici, get little ones to bring Cici here.
The mental image of Cici being dragged to the convention hall on a mattress by a row of cats both delights and intimidates you. You stand up and look down at Cici. She places a hand behind her head and gives you a smug look.
You aren't going to do anything to hurt anyone, right?
Cici, no. Cici not get out of home unless humans dress funny. Cici not mess up for Cici.
Okay then, well as long as you know then I guess I won't stop you. Have fun I guess.
You give her a little wave and turn to meet back up with Stephanie. Another man with a hot dog crossing your path as you go. The sounds of purring echo throughout the room. It looks like Cici has finally been caught up with. Citywide food shortage linked to cat army delivering goods to enormous catwoman. Authorities in the city are currently investigating a widespread food shortage that has left supermarkets, restaurants, and warehouses mysteriously drained of supplies. Eyewitnesses have reported seeing swarms of cats stealing food, only for the items to vanish without a trace. As bizarre as this seems, it has become a consistent pattern across various districts. Situation took an even stranger turn when officers attempted to track down the source of these food thefts, leading them to a secluded back alley within the city's downtown area. There, they discovered an enormous woman with cat-like features, reportedly too large to stand, and yet impossible to detain due to her immense strength and sheer weight. Police have confirmed that all attempts to transport her have failed. As standard equipment is insufficient for someone of her size and abilities. Officials are working to address the food crisis while devising a way to take the woman into custody without causing harm to personnel or civilians. It remains unclear how the cats are connected to the woman, but authorities believe she may be commanding them in some way. The city has urged citizens to remain vigilant, especially if they notice unusual feline activity. Missing persons case takes an unexpected turn, as the number of missing persons reported within the city continues to increase. The pressure from the public for the police to do something has finally managed to yield some results. However, they are not what most people ever would have considered. Situation took a turn to the strange when officers received a call in regards to a large silhouette stalking a downtown back alley. There, the police discovered an enormous woman with cat-like features, reportedly too large to stand. Police have attempted to bring the woman into custody, but were unable to detain her, and any attempts to move her are insufficient due to her size. However, it was confirmed that this woman is involved in the missing persons case, as she was quoted saying, "Will men bring Cici more prey? Cici want one with big meat sacks." Search for the missing persons is still continuing, but the prospects have taken a turn for worse with this new information brought to light. The police have asked civilians to refrain from seeking out the back alley in question until the time when the suspect has been appropriately removed from the scene. Now that the immediate threat to Cici has been dealt with, it is time to return to the problem at hand. Find a way for Cici to sustain herself without causing harm, though, based on her size, that seems like it is going to be a bit of a tall order.
Aubrey, don't worry about Cici. Cici gets small cats to get prey now. Aubrey do much for Cici.
While that is one less thing for you to have to do, you still need to think of something just in case what Tiffany said is actually true. As you go to leave, you see a glimmer coming from the corner of Cici's den. You walk over and find a small container and pick it up. Flavor enhancer, it reads. It must have fallen out of Tiffany's pocket during all the commotion.
Guess she won't need this anymore.
You say, pocketing the container. You remember that Nishol told you that the sandwich is an infinite source of food, and you've seen it respond for yourself. You get an idea that you hope might be the answer to your problems. Feed Cici the whole sandwich. Note this will remove it from your inventory permanently.
Ooh, oh, Aubrey give prey to Cici anyway. Cici take prey.
She takes the perfect sandwich from you, and with no regard for manners, shoves the entire thing into her mouth, chews and swallows.
Poor best prey Cici ever had.
The growling of her stomach seems to quite a bit. Fingers crossed that this works. You decide to check in on Cici, curious how your plan with the sandwich is panning out. Suffice it to say, it seems that it has at least given her more to digest. Body spreads across the floor of the alleyway, with her thighs now reaching opposing sides of the alley from where she sits. Her legs are encased in fat and lay heavily at her sides. Her stomach flows like a river. Layers upon layers of fat rolls rest on top of each other, coming to a resting position at least 4 feet away from her torso. Her arms are thick with flab, and her chest seems to have finally gotten a little bit of love, where you can start to make out a hint of cleavage. Cici's hands rest on her belly, where she caresses herself, stroking her hands up and down along the curvature of her belly. The hum of her purr can be heard up until she finally takes notice of you.
Aubrey, Cici so fluffy and warm, tummy no longer yell. Not since prey that Aubrey gave Cici.
Well, if Cici is saying that she is no longer hungry, then you are safe to assume that feeding her the sandwich dealt with that issue.
I'm happy to hear that, Cici. I just wanted to make sure that you are doing okay. You're not uncomfortable, are you?
Sisai great, Sisai tummy no yell Sisai rest when Sisai want Sisai feel real good. Aubrey try.
She then gestures for you to come to her. You go to her side, take a hand, and place a hand on her belly. You take a handful and give it a squeeze. Your hand sinks into the soft rolls of her fat, and it spills between your fingers. You begin kneading her belly, rubbing in large circles to cover as much area as you can.
Maya.
Sisai lets out a contented meow as you fondle her stomach.
Yeah, very soft. I can see why you like it. Well, if you're happy with how things are, then I'm glad. I'll make sure to stop by now and then just to say hi.
You say before finally ending your belly rub.
Sisai always happy to see Aubrey.
You make a trip to see Sisai, but upon entering the alley, you see that you won't be able to get very far into it.
Hi Aubrey.
Absolutely massive Sisai greets you. She's wedged between two buildings and takes up the entire walking space of the alley, creating a wall of fat cat. Her fat is pressed so tightly against the walls of the buildings that it's climbing up them, pushing Sisai's upper torso high off the ground. Her belly is thrice the size of the rest of her body, which is saying much, since her rear end would overfill most couches. You stand mouth agape for a second before the shock wears off.
Jesus Christ, Cici, are you okay?
If she were to get any larger, you fear that structural damage is not far off.
Sisai stuck but Sisai okay. Aubrey gave Sisai prey, and Sisai get fluffier each time Sisai wake up. But Sisai not get fluffier for bit. Sisai thinks Sisai as fluffy as cat can be.
So Sisai is claiming to finally have stopped growing.
How is your tummy?
Sisai tummy quite. Sisai not of prey since Aubrey gave prey.
If what she is saying is true, and you don't think she would have any reason to lie, then the sandwich is still feeding her. Maybe her body has gotten used to it. Is this the new normal for Sisai? Well, all you can really do at this point is hope that your assumption is correct. You were forwarded a news article, and you worry that you may have made a mistake. New tourist attraction draws crowds. The city's newest tourist hotspot isn't a monument or museum, but a living, breathing spectacle, a gigantic catwoman whose size continues to defy all expectations. In an attempt to reduce the risk of the great populace, the woman in question had been transported to the outer limits of the city, while research is being conducted in order to determine what is causing this unprecedented growth. But in an unexpected twist, visitors from all over have been flocking to the outskirts of town to catch a glimpse of the enormous feline-like figure. Local officials have cordoned off the area where she's being held, offering safe viewing points for curious tourists. Dubbed by locals as the endlessly growing Catwoman, her size has become a source of fascination. While authorities claim to have her under control, it's clear the space is quickly running out. As of the time of the writing of this article, the cause of the growth has yet to be determined. But according to experts on site, she doesn't seem to be consuming food at all. Her mass increases day by day. Crowds have been warned not to approach her enclosure due to safety concerns, but so far, the city seems to be capitalizing on her popularity. It's unclear how much longer they'll be able to maintain the area before it becomes untenable. You begin to read the news article, and a pit in your stomach forms as you realize that you never actually disconnected Tiffany from that feeding tube. A shocking incident: the wall of a local laboratory gave way earlier today after a woman inside, who was reportedly attached to some sort of automatic feeding machine, grew to the point where she exceeded the capacity of the room she was confined in. Emergency services responded to the scene, where they found the woman in a state of severe physical overgrowth. Authorities believe she had been confined in the lab for an extended period. Though the exact circumstances remain unclear, the woman, whose identity has not yet been disclosed, was immediately taken into medical care. However, doctors report that she seems to be in a state of near-total mental unawareness. Despite her physical condition, the woman has been unable to communicate clearly, offering no explanation for her situation. Instead, the only sounds she has made are continuous moans of apparent pleasure, along with repeated requests for more. Investigators are looking into the lab's operations, and initial reports suggest that the facility may have been conducting unregulated or unethical experiments involving extreme forms of physical manipulation. However, those details have not been confirmed at this time. Authorities are now working to piece together how the situation escalated to this point, and whether there were any failures in oversight or safety regulations within the lab. Meanwhile, the woman remains under medical observation, though her condition raises significant questions about her treatment and the bizarre circumstances that led to her immense size. Citizens are urged to avoid the area while structural repairs and investigations are ongoing. More updates will be provided as this story develops.